I'm so glad you're here because we are going to talk about my hero, Detective Dendro. And honestly, I love reading the stories every couple of months. They're so much fun. Now, Detective Dendro's name comes from the word dendrology. Mm-hmm. What is dendrology?
So dendrology simplified is the scientific study of trees.
So tell me a little bit about the good detective's personality. So what is he like as a character?
So he is, I think, fueled a lot by just a love for trees and an admiration for them. Everywhere he goes around the world, he usually finds something that he can admire, whether it's a particular local tree or the backyard or the garden of the client he's visiting.
What kind of story would we encounter in Detective Dendro?
One of my favorite stories it was actually one of the first stories that I edited when I first came on board with ISA was the case of the Christmas catastrophe. And in that story, Dendro and Codit go to visit a friend's house, and for the holidays, he has just done up his whole house, his yard, just almost every light and inflatable you can imagine. And while they're visiting, a tree branch falls on the house. And so Codit and Detective Dendro go out back and they try to figure out what's going on. And they have this just enormous tree that is all wrapped up in lights. And it turns out the tree owner had never taken the lights off of the tree from season to season, which had caused some girdling issues, and a branch had died.
So in the first part of the show, we spoke to Lindsay about Detective Dendro, this wonderful fictional character that solves tree mysteries. Now let's speak to Sarah Ruark, who's one of the people who writes the Detective Dendro mysteries. So she is technical advisor at the Davey Institute, the research arm of Davey Tree. So Sarah, thank you so much for coming to be with me on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit what it's like to write these Detective Dendro mysteries. Do you just come up with ideas, out of whatever, just make up ideas as you go along?
Because I encounter so many mysteries in trees every day in my job, it's kind of easy to just pull the more interesting ones, or a lot of times maybe I'll choose one based on what I have the best pictures of, because we do include pictures with these stories. And so that will usually give me a general idea what I want to write about. So the most recent one I've written was the case of the rowdy rooftop. And this was about an actual rooftop garden that I visited. And they had quite a few insect problems going on up there, but the treatment was complicated by the presence of a very large koi pond that took up the majority of the center of the garden. And so you couldn't apply any pesticides or anything because of the risk of running off into the koi pond. And so I had the detective try to come up with an innovative way to control the pest problem that would also protect the safety of the fish.
Okay, so tell us, we want to know. Unless a listener knows the answer to that question, I would love to know.
The detective proposed using beneficial insects or predatory insects to target the insect pests that were present on the garden.
If people want to learn about trees, fruit trees, or any kinds of trees, they could actually just go to the university extensions. They can look up whatever disease they want to learn. Why is this different? Why do you think this is more helpful somehow?
Stories have a way of sticking into our minds. There are so many study techniques out there that involve coming up with creative connections or telling yourself a story to try and remember that information. So if you got a laugh out of a Detective Dendro story, or you remember jumping to the right conclusion before you turned to the end of the newsletter, I think that would stick in your mind. And if you came across a similar situation yourself, you might remember, aha, I remember that story that I enjoyed so much. And you could actually bring that forward into your practical day-to-day.